Not long after in our history, there was a man named Vilhjalmur Stefansson. He also believed to a certain extent that a vegetable-heavy diet was mandatory for good health. He was an explorer who ended up living with Inuítes in Canada in 1906, and in that time and place, he was forced to adopt a new diet due to the lack of options. He made a discovery that will change the way you look at food.
Now this raises the whole question of food then. You yourself must have longed for a green vegetable once in a while.
Well, I did at first.
At first, his preconceived notion is, I'm going to die. There is nothing green here. There is no vegetation. They simply eat fish and drink water.
It was unlike anything that he'd experienced, right? Completely unlike the Western diet. It was probably 70 to 80% fat. The Inuit lived half the year on caribou and half the year on whatever they could fish out of the sea.
For 4.5 months, I lived on literally nothing but fish and water. And at the end of 4.5 months, I was healthier than I'd never been before.
And this is on an exclusive meat diet.
That was exclusive fish in this case.
On this diet, they were perfectly healthy. I mean, Stefansson was somebody from the medical world, and he knew what cancer looked like, he knew what heart disease looked like, and he did not see anyone suffering from ill health in that community. When he came back to the United States, no one believed him, of course. What? People eating nothing but meat and fat? How could that be? They certainly would die.
Dr. Charles Norris, chief medical examiner, does not approve of an all-meat diet. I fail to see why the case of the Eskimo with his strict carnivorous diet should be cited as an example to the white American. The Eskimo has never accomplished anything, and the white man has.
We have a weakness of not learning from the natives, but rather teaching them. You see everything through the colored spectacles of your education you're bringing up. I have spent, aggregated, more than 6 years on red meat. That is seal meat, caribou meat, muskox meat, polar bear, grizzly bear, and so on.
The Stefansson diet was considered an all-meat diet. So what he did in 1928 was subjected himself and a friend of his to living in a hospital, being monitored for an entire year, eating nothing but meat, fish, and water, and that became the famous Bellevue study.
The studies on Stefansson, which were intensively made from every clinical angle, started on February the 13th, 1928. Stefansson was tested during the experiment with an excessively high-protein, minimal-fat diet, and as a result became ill.
Stefansson said the only time that he felt ill was when he ate too much lean meat, not accompanied by the fat, but that some thick steaks made him feel better again.
You have to have fat with a lean. Lean and fat together make a perfect diet.
At the end, there were 6 publications that came out of that experiment by different doctors looking at whether or not they got enough vitamins and minerals and everything they could possibly measure, and they were found to be in perfect health.
Excessive meat eating is not only not injurious, Dr. Lieb says, but the experiments tended to show that health was improved, resistance to disease strengthened, and the subjects underwent no variation from normal health.
I wanted to try to dispel from the world the same misconceptions which I had of the Arctic when I went north. I used to think that I was well informed on the Arctic before I went north, but I concluded eventually that out of 10 things that I believed about the Arctic before I went north, about 6 were wrong.